Welcome to this edition of the Stahls TV Blueprint. I'm excited to be here at CapSwag in Berlin, New Jersey to introduce you to a team of great people. I met these folks back in the ISS Long Beach show in January, and here we are on our way to the Atlantic City show, another ISS show. It's the month of March, and we decided to stop here on the way. I was really intrigued about this company because they do a lot of decoration techniques well, they mix that with retail, and they're interested in expanding into vinyl. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Mohammed, the owner of the business.
How you doing? My name is Mohammed. This is CapSwag. Josh, thank you so much for having us. We're so incredibly blessed to have you guys and be able to share our stories with your viewers.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and I think just to sort of get the episode started on the right foot, it helps always for our viewers to have a background of the business, sort of how it evolved, what it does, the history of the business. So what do you want to share with our viewers in that aspect?
Sure. So originally, as you guys can see, we were a licensed apparel business. We would work with some of the brands that we deal with, like Mitchell & Ness, New Era 47, and do custom colorways for sneaker releases. We would do pre-books that were 6 months in advance. 6 months in advance.
Wow.
Yeah, I have to buy 6 months in advance to today. Yeah. So doing that and getting into the custom apparel business and being able to create an idea and put that into production in literally days was like a godsend to me. So that's kind of how this was evolved. It came from a necessity to be able to take concepts from a 6-month lead time to production at a faster rate and be able to leverage our abilities as a very different kind of business. We're kind of a hybrid in the store as with regard to production and retail. So I took this location and I kind of changed it from just being a retail-driven location into a production facility for the rest of our stores, and to be able to leverage the demographics and customer base that we have here.
And you do have multiple stores, right? How many stores and what locations?
Yeah. Okay. So we have the Berlin store, we have the Wildwood location. That's the largest location that we have, close to 2,000 square feet. We're incredibly proud of that location. We just rehabbed it last year. We have 3 other locations in Ocean City. We're currently building our 3rd location in Ocean City. That location is about 1,000 square feet. We're documenting the process, like I told you.
Wonderful.
Yes, which is really cool. We're excited, man. We're humbled. This is a very tough economic time.
Sure.
So it's very humbling to be able to grow in this environment. It's a blessing. So we don't take that blessing lightly at all.
Excellent. So I appreciate the background on the business. I'd like to understand a little bit more about the way that CapSwag has evolved from an equipment standpoint.
Sure. It's easy to make those decisions, like I said, when your market is demanding it. Guy comes in and does a set of hats, 12 hats. He comes in the following week and says, I want all my sweaters done. What are you gonna say, no? You're not gonna say no.
Not too many times, hopefully.
Right, you're not gonna say no. Not if you want to be in business long enough, right? So what we did was we ran with that. Then he would come in and say, well, I want my shirts screen printed because I want to be able to give these to my guys and they're gonna beat them up. I can't do the embroidery, maybe it's too costly for me. So we started saying no. I have a stigma against that word.
All right.
So when I started saying no, I got very uncomfortable. So I said, okay, I got to stop saying no. We got a direct-to-garment machine.
Okay.
Right? So all along, the impetus to do all that was just not saying no and letting the ball roll where it goes. I think a lot of times in business, people try to force something, right? You're trying to force the ball to go where you want it to go. I just feel like that it's going there. So we're just kind of letting it.
Yeah, it's all listening to your customers and reacting, and you see the return, and then you double down on the stuff that's winning.
You said it correct right there. I had a good friend of mine, very successful guy, told me once that if you listen, they'll tell you exactly what they want.
Right.
All you gotta do is listen. So, we try to listen.
Good. Now, that's exciting to hear. And obviously, you're doing well. You have multiple stores.
We're blessed to do well in this economy. Yes.
Good. That's good to hear. And now, when you expanded into the direct-to-garment printing machine,
right?
I was excited to see a Hotronics heat press when I walked in. Did that come with the machine, or was that a separate and different purchase?
No, I bought my presses separate. I mean, the company that sold me the direct-to-garment machine sold their own presses, but if you look around at the equipment that we buy, we're not really, we're not buying on the cheap.
Right.
We're not interested in doing that. So I've done my research on presses. I know Hotronics is the best in the industry for these kind of presses. So that's why we go with Hotronics. I have another press too that's the Fusion.
Yeah.
with the arm that we use for sublimation. That's also a hot Triumph press.
My favorite press. It's the one I use in all the videos. If you watch Stahls TV, you've certainly seen the Fusion in action a few times in the past. And so on the autoclave that you have here at this store location, the Fusion the other, outside of curing the direct-to-garment prints, doing the pre-treat, the post-cure, what other sorts of applications are flowing through the press today?
Mainly we're using it, to be honest with you, we're using it to press down the material for embroidery. You want a nice flat surface to embroider on some of the more dense structured materials. We're using it for direct to garment. We're using it for sublimation at the other store. And I want to use it for vinyl. That's why you're here.
Right.
I want to use it for vinyl. I want to get this thing right. So I'm excited to get into this. I feel like we went to graduate school, you know, for complexity before we went to high school. You know, does that
Speaking of the embroidery first and then the heat press and the vinyl.
Right. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, or just me just talking out loud, but decorated apparel goes in levels. Embroidery has not been easy.
Right.
It's a difficult process. You have to know a lot of different things. And, you know, for us, we kind of went with the most difficult initially. And I think now, as far as difficulty goes and profitability, right? This is where we're headed because it makes sense. And the other aspect of it is, like I told you initially, I don't like saying no. Right. I have customers come in here and they want flight jackets done. By the time I embroider their flight jacket, this thing's gonna cost them like $200-300. Who's paying $200-300 for a flight jacket? So my perspective on that, after, you know, thanks to you on this, I watched a few of your videos. I understood that reducing the cost of production was going to enable me to say yes more.
Anytime we're visiting a customer, especially when we're going to be on a TV show, we like to bring a little extra help. And for this trip, we brought Bob Robinson because, Bob, you have a lot of experience in the decorated apparel industry. So for the benefit of our viewers, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I've been with in apparel decoration for nearly 20 years now with the Stahls company, about that long. Really began, well, started a little bit of time with retail sales, but the bulk of my time early on was in production. So we were running a lot of like 3 shifts, a whole lot of people, doing a lot of applique, a lot of vinyl cutting, a lot of heat transfer. So I got my feet wet in that very early.
Good. And then I know when you worked for our Imprintables warehouse division, you sold a lot of roll-in devices and print cut systems.
I did.
And CapSwag here has invested in a roll-in GS24, which is the vinyl cutter from roll-in. So we just walked up to the unit. Let's start teaching these guys sort of how it operates. You've had it for what, maybe a month? Right.
Yeah, I was really excited to see that the fact that we got a roll-in here. We sell several different brands, and I'm a little partial to the roll-in. Like I said, we've been doing them for a while. The predecessor to this, the GX24, wildly successful. It's probably the best. When someone says vinyl cutter, the GX24 came to mind. They've come up with a new model, the GS24, just kind of upgraded a few things. Still the same quality that we've always had, and that's what I like about roll-in's reliability. But anyway, to start with a vinyl cutter, I mean, it does everything that you want to do as far as personalization goes. But you got to start off the right way. So the very first thing is loading the material. And I've got a piece of some CAD cut vinyl here. Now, you're always cutting from the back side of CAD cut heat transfer material, HTV, because it's 2 ply. There's a carrier underneath, and then there's the heat transfer material on top. We're going to reverse the image. So we're going to load it from the back. But we got to
step in and take a look.
Sure, take a look. We got to make sure that we put the pinch rollers. The pinch rollers are what does all the work as far as moving the material.
You could show it.
So I'll start with the pinch
Start
rollers.
with the pinch rollers.
The pinch rollers are the ones that are doing all the work here as far as moving material forward and backwards. And as you'll notice on this machine, every place you see a white rectangle, that's this grit roller here. And that's what gives it the traction. It'll just kind of spin if it's not positioned on those. So we want to make sure that our pinch rollers are on those marks, and then 2, that the material, that we have the wheels on the outside. Get the recognition, see what I'm doing. Here we go. Now on this end, we have a lot of bonus pinch rollers. So we're going to move this over to here. Notice I've got this edge on here. Now this is only 15-inch material. So we'll slide that over to where it's safely there. Now on the front and on the back, we've got these little ridges. This really helps keep your material straight. So we'll match it up on the front and the back to make sure that they are even. Now that's going to go a long way when you're doing a longer run. You want to make sure that they're nice and even. Let's go ahead and power up the machine. When it powers up, as it goes across, it's actually reading where those pinch rollers are, so it knows how wide a material we have. And that'll show up in your software. On the display, it says select sheet or roll. We do have a sheet in here, but we're going to do a little bit of test cut, so I'm just going to hit and hit roll, because that's largely what you'll be doing most of the time, so I'll just hit enter. Now it's set up and ready to go from there, but you notice I've got about 6 inches worth of material down here, which was important when we were setting this up to keep it straight.
Sure.
But I don't want to waste this material, because if I start cutting from here, it's going to cut here, and I've lost this much. So we're going to go ahead and push this using the directional arrows. I'm moving up.
Any idea what that costs per square inch, that vinyl that's in there?
On the average, we'll take a look, it's about a penny a square inch. So.
Oh, you know, come on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I think it's about a penny per square.
Penny per square inch.
I lied to you, it's not accurate. No,
Yeah.
it is a penny a square inch. Okay, now once we move that material upwards here, even if we start to say press go now, it's going to spit back out to where we were until we hold down this origin button. And hold it down for a couple seconds until you see origin set flash. Now we know that we're going to start from there. We're still not ready to go, because the most important part of this cutter is the blade, the vinyl cutting, the drag knife technology. So I'm going to open this up and pull out the blade holder, and when you push it up, you can see that there's a blade in there. This has got a 45-degree blade in it. The trick is, probably the most common mistake that people do is they think to cut better, I need more blade. Not the case at all. We only want this very tip of the blade to stick out. We're only sticking out as far as the thickness of the material that we're cutting. We don't want to be able to cut through the carrier. All we're doing is cutting through the HTV itself, leaving that polyester carrier intact. So we want to kind of maybe scratch against that. So you almost shouldn't be able to see it. It's like a credit card or half a credit card sticking out, and that's all you're going to need. The only time I would advance it out more if I was doing something thicker like flock or tackle twill.
Can we feel it?
Sure.
You can cut tackle twill on this?
You can.
Wow.
Yeah, servo motor gives you that kind of beef that you need. It's very consistent. It's got a lot of downforce on this too. It's something else that they improved. Even in the older model, we were cutting tackle twill very nicely. Now I would recommend a carbide blade, a more longer lasting blade, or a 60-degree maybe, just to make it a little more durable. The twill is a little more.
Was it too high or too low before?
There was too much blade out from when I came here.
Okay.
But right now, you
We
want to
did
almost
one.
be able to feel
We
it.
did one once, and it was very hard to cut it because the vinyl was like not correct cut. That's why we make it high.
We'll take a look at it here. Now, the other thing is, if you cut too deeply, you cut through everything, so you want to be careful. This is cutting strip here, this vinyl strip here, it's very hard impact plastic here. That's what's giving you the pressure to cut against this. So if we cut too deeply, we can actually start putting scores in that, and that eventually is going to give you a problem, because you're going to have places where your vinyl doesn't bleed out nicely because it lost its resistance right there. So therefore, no pressure in that particular area, and you'll have little skips.
I understand.
So we'll put this back in. Pretty comfortable with that. Once the blade holder is back in where it belongs, we're still not ready to go because we have no idea how much pressure or how much force we've got going on here. Now, the best way to test that is a simple test cut. It's already on the machine. We just hold the test button down. But I'm going to check it first and kind of get a range, because we have a pretty good idea with a fresh blade how deeply this should cut. I'm going to say somewhere around 70 grams, 60, 70 grams of force. So I'm just going to hold the force button down. You're at 50. It may, with a brand new blade, that might be okay. I'm going to go ahead and bump it up. Now with this machine, anytime you get into a field, to activate it, you're always going to hit the right arrow. And that gives you the indication on the side when you see the little arrow to the side.
So real quick, just to interrupt you, Bob. You're beefing up the amount of force.
Right. If you are cutting and you don't have a good clean cut, it's kind of like a steak knife. As it starts to go dull, I'm not going to throw it away. I'm just going to push a little harder to get through that.
I understand.
That fillet.
I understand.
I'm so excited.
You gotta give it more.
A little bit of force. So anytime we need to add anything, we're not going to add blade. We're just going to give it a little more force.
I got it.
So I'm going to go ahead and give that a little something and hit enter. Unless you hit enter, nothing changed.
So real quick, if you're noticing weeding problems,
Mm-hmm.
you want to increase your G-force.
That's the first thing. Well, first of all, check the blade, make sure that you have the proper depth, and also make sure that it didn't get chipped. It happens. Sometimes you get a little chip in the blade, especially if you cut too deeply into the cutting strip, or you're cutting something difficult, or just a little flaw in the blade. It happens once in a while. And once you know those are good, then we know we can move forward and now check the actual pressure. So with this machine, we hold down the test button, and it's going to cut a circle with a square inside of that, and inside that square is a little cross. And we'll go ahead and advance this forward. And with good lighting, I can see here, and I never leave home without a weeder in my jacket pocket. So I'll pull out this Stahls Easy Weeder, which seriously, you need about 20 of these because you can end up disappearing. I'm going to start on the outside and pull away that circle, and that's a nice clean cut. It had this been not deep enough or not enough force, it would have probably caught on those corners. I got clean corners. Then I also check underneath and make sure that I haven't pushed through too far. If you can feel like too much depression on that, it could be a problem. Now I'm going to go ahead and see how tight we can pull out and pull out that little cross. Yeah, we're good. I guess at the 70, that's pretty much a good average. Now in all of our catalogs, there are some recommended settings for all of our heat transfer films and what force we should be using. That's in that range.
Sure.
So now we're pretty comfortable knowing that we're going to have a clean cut. Now I'm comfortable sending multiple designs in this and not worrying about it like 30 names on here and then say, wow, they didn't read out, just wasted the art of materials.
So test cut.
Test cut. Always test cut. Now you don't have to test cut every time you change the material.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
as
start.
long as it's the same type,
Yeah.
then you know it's going to be good for a while.
So how's it feel on the backside? Is it scoring at all?
Not at all. Feels
Not at
good.
all?
Feels
Perfect.
good. Feels good.
Okay, rock and roll. So we need to set up our new origin point. Bob was correct. Make sure that's on camera.
You gotta reiterate that, huh?
Yeah, right.
So, you gave him a certain length. Should I go up to here?
I would. Yep.
Right?
Yep. How far are you? What's your actual dimension? So you got plenty of room to spare.
You can go above it.
Yeah.
That's good enough, right?
Yep. And just reprogram your origin. And you'll notice that it will, once you reprogram your origin, it'll reset. So now I'm working with 13.9.
Oh, and it tells you the length too.
The width and then
I
the
see.
length. It's 21.3 now. So
So
go
so
ahead.
glad we put it in inches because I wouldn't have converted those millimeters.
Yeah, so go ahead and send it over. Did mirror it, right? Okay. If you ever forget something, like, oh, I forgot to test the force or something, there's a pause right on the machine. So if something looks like it's getting jammed up or you need to fix something, you can just pause it for a second, and then to resume it, you're going to hit the pause button again. To stop the job, you hit the enter key. Hypnotizing.
Yeah. They never get old. None of them do. It's funny. They all have the same kind of attraction. Cool. The speed definitely made a difference. 30 seconds.
And that's not even that much. We only bumped it up 10. You could go even
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead and find your razor. Or you can. Did you put a box around it this time? No. So you'll want to advance it out and then slice it
We
off.
used almost all of it. Here.
Well, only 12 out of 20 some.
Okay. You're awesome.
So usually I like to bend it adhesive side out. I don't know. I didn't design it, so I'm not sure what the top edge is. But you want to find like the top edge of the graphic.
What was the top edge, Dave? Was
Probably
it the
right
numbers?
there.
The top of the numbers?
Yeah, there were two
Yes.
ones, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll crease it, and then I'll see that mark, and that way when I'm advancing it out,
You know
I
where not
just
to
feel
go.
that mark, so I'm not wasting that much.
Cool.
And thermofilm's a little tougher to cut through. So
Switch
just,
it? Let's switch it.
Oh yeah, that's thick. That's thick, man.
There you go. Just a little tip, when you shut down the shop at night, just leave the cutter with the pinch rollers open. That way you don't get any flat spots on your pinch rollers long term if you're not using it for a
I
while.
got you. Just put so much pressure.
Yeah. All right, so take it over to a flat table here, and we can
material.
Yeah, the very corner.
Because you want to leave the numbers on, we're going to get rid of the excess. There you go. Can I show you our weeding tip?
Yeah.
Watch this. You get hold of this and kind of scoop it, dig into it so you're picking that up like that. That way you're just lifting it up instead of de-scratching it gives you resistance. But if I could just kind of puncture the material and peel it out like this way, now I'm ready to just peel it away.
I was just testing you.
I knew it. Yeah, you shouldn't need your weeder again until we get to the inside the cavities and names.
If it's cut right on this, you do not have to be shy.
Yeah, we test cut, so we're pretty confident that we can just grip it and rip it, as we say.
Is it possible you could like cut the like this other stuff right here off? Well, not really. Just kind of rip it all together.
Yeah,
like this.
like if you just, honestly, you don't have to be so, you're being a little shy with it. Just tug it, boom, go. Don't be afraid of it.
If it tears, it's going to be a part that you don't need. The numbers will stay in place.
Yeah, you'll
It's
come
okay.
back and clean that back up.
It's okay.
So you guys are not concerned with it because it's a heavy material and you know the cuts are right.
If
You
the
can
cuts
see
are
the
right, I don't worry about it, yeah.
One last tip. When you get to text, you always want to weed into the text if you can. So if you know where your design is, once you find your text, you want to sort of weed into the openings, and that way it'll pull a little easier.
It'll grab it.
Especially if you've got like a lot of E's and F's and things like that where you're not, the cavities will be on the open side.
Nice job.
Cool, man.
Professional weeder here.
Cool, man.
Now you get your practice scooping out center.
And you said not
Another
to get
little
it.
tip too is
yeah.
once you get some of this sticky stuff
Don't
built
throw it
up,
on.
if you put it over here, you can put all your little chads off of the material. Because if that gets the wrong way, then you get that little triangle on your
Sure.
shirt.
That
Sure.
can peek out.
All for none.
Yeah, so
Alright.
crap, you have a little something on the side there to collect all those little pieces of. If the guy who designs this stuff has to do the weeding, he won't make everything so hard for you.
I got you. Looks like you're weeding, bro.
It's like an architect should have to build a house. And,
Yeah,
you made this so
he'd
hard,
be a
you
lot
build
better
it, you go
at
ahead.
designing.
Yeah.
Once it's off the carrier, really its only use is for rip away, so it's just up to you if you get a big enough piece that's pulled away, if
Sure.
you want to save it or just pitch it.
Sure.
I think you only got
Yeah.
the,
The sleeves. I'm thinking, what'd you use the ones for? Sleeve shots.
Mm.
Yeah, smart.
and then you got the A on the swag there.
The second one.
Right here, right there.
You got that for, you got cap, I just need some swag. There you go. That little guy in there. And always do make sure that you've cleaned up all your little pieces off that sticky carrier, because last thing you need is an errant piece of material in there.
Sure.
There is a lettering remover, but it's a pain to have to go back and try to fix something after it's
Sure.
been applied.
Yep.
You guys got a garbage in your
Yeah, I got you.
little stuff in there.
Okay.
All right, now we just got to cut them all up.
Thing I like to do when I'm loading is just, I pull all the way down as if it's hanging on my shoulders, as if I'm wearing it. That helps me make sure it's as straight as it possibly can, just how it would hang on somebody that's gonna wear it. And then I'll grab the two pieces, sort of feeling to make sure that the seams are somewhat even on the side to make sure it's loaded straight. And I'll retract it till the edge of the seam. You wanna get as flat as possible. And that also helps give you a straight line for laying out designs, especially on t-shirts. Always start with the preheat. You're just gonna basically lock the heater down against the shirt
Time and pressure.
for the preheat. or for the actual application?
For the preheat.
For the preheat, just a few seconds. I mean, if you make engagement, I have both of these on 8 seconds. You can let it run or you can pop it in advance. Doesn't really matter.
While you're doing that, you're also taking a look at your pressure to make sure that your readout is somewhere between 4, 5, and 6. If not, then you make the adjustment. So you're doing two things. You're preheating that gets rid of the moisture, but you're also making sure that you get the right pressure. Because somebody could be doing leak sweaty or something new.
Did you have a peek at your pressure when you did that? We want it on 4, 5, or 6. 5 should be good to go then. Yeah. I've already set the press up, so every vinyl comes with its own recipe for time, temperature, and pressure. You can download that off the website. When you order a roll, it comes printed inside of the roll on an application instruction. All right, so now we're ready to position our name and number on the back.
Anytime you're receiving a material, your next question should be, what's the recipe?
Right.
Time, temperature, heat.
That's why you want to get down to as few materials as possible,
Right.
and then you can have a printout of, create a book of your recipes.
Right.
Make sure this size here, the same size before you put the sticker. No, check. No. See here?
Yeah, just
to be
kind of hold out the sleeves.
You got about 2 inches on this side to the color center.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I feel for when I load it on the side of the machine.
Now will this stick right away until
It'll
won't-
hold in place. It's
it'll
not
hold,
gonna-
but
it-
yeah.
Yeah, but it's only the stickiness of the carrier that's holding it. It's not going to stick to the letter.
You're good. Too much pressure. You had it 30 seconds ago.
Wait. The number.
How's that number while we're here?
Get them both at one
He's a
shot.
graphic designer.
Yeah.
He wants to get it right.
Right in the
You
middle.
want to center that one, but it's just a number 1. There you go. Now I like to keep, I'd raise it up just a little bit, like keep about 2 inches down from the seam, or an inch.
Long term, if you end up doing a lot of application at the heat press with vinyl, you see how that layout's pretty manual.
Sure.
You may want to consider a laser alignment system to sit beside the press that can shoot line lasers on, so you
Yeah.
can shoot yourself a centering line down the machine.
Does that, I've seen those before. Do they work really well?
It worked like on that number 1, it'd be easy. I'd have a centering line, so I just center the number 1 now on a line laser instead of having to look at my tag and the backbone of my press.
The nice thing is there's 4 lasers working, so I can have one.
now when you press this, how long should you actually basically press it for?
You should do it'll be 8 seconds.
8 seconds?
Yeah.
What it's set to.
Sure.
Thermofilm, which is the product we're working with, is a hot peel, so you can peel the backing immediately after it's been applied.
The time to press that is not very long.
This was 6
Yeah.
to 8 seconds.
Now when you peel it away, there shouldn't be any
Residue.
That bit's done.
You know why the custom apparel market is such a great market? Because you can be involved in the industry and sell all these products, but still get excited about your own stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's I think that's the magic. Right?
Yep, absolutely.
He said, what does that mean?
That's cool.
Alright, once you get that slip protector on here, you're going to be able to just slide the jersey out slightly and spin it on the machine so you don't have to handle it twice.
Sure. Spin it right on there.
Yep.
Pull back
Just
the
turn
little
it so
bit,
smooth,
that's
it just
the
spins.
slip.
Same thing, pull it down like you're wearing it,
Production.
and then
Yeah,
Yeah,
all about
it's
yeah,
on.
just sort of balloon it
So
out.
when I ran that production, I would be moving cartridge cans close to them.
Yeah, just take a cheek, and then you're going to retract both shoulders back until you get this seam off of the platen.
Nice.
A
So
little
that
bit
seam?
more. Yep, I would drop the whole seam right off the edge of the platen.
It's all about getting the pressure up there. There you go.
Preheat that side.
Placement on this name, we're going to want that almost right up against the edge of the belt because you don't want it too far down from that V-neck. It's already down 3 or 4 inches on the chest, so it'll be on my belly. It's not a pretty thing.
You want to give it about a half inch.
It's about there.
A little bit more. There you go. You don't want to push the extremities too much.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to do the very, very edge. Now you give yourself a little room
Do you know this is centered?
Do we know if this is centered?
Yeah.
To me it looks centered.
It looks nice. Look, quick little tap. We showed this in the last episode too. Just fold the material back to back on your edge of your letters. Get a little crease mark. And now I know that's my center. So when I go to lay it out, I can line it up right on that V-neck. I'm not standing in front of it, so I assume it's dimensionally, right? That works for really long names or anything like that.
It'll also help you center that number 1 now that you know where that is, where to line it up. You've got a point of reference.
Now, is there a certain distance that should be for?
On that, I wouldn't go much more than, I mean, an inch, inch and a half between, but if you've got your Mylar on the way a little bit, okay.
Look at your Eagles NFL jersey on the wall. You see the distance? Very close.
Yeah, it's very close.
And that's to.
It's about an inch, inch and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, we kept our number an inch down from that seam.
It's too close.
Because it's all the way up here.
Oh,
Let me-
It's about as close as we can make it.
Is that cool?
Looks good to me.
Yeah.
Hammer time.
Question is, what do you do while the heat press is down?
Right.
Count the money.
Actually, if you got a bunch of these, if you're looking for another one, get the size,
Right.
find a design for production. That's 6
Throwing away the trash.
6 or 8
Keep
seconds.
keeping yourself moving.
6 to 8 seconds is not a whole lot of time to keep yourself
Nah,
busy.
nah, it's not.
On the 15-second buzz, you can actually get a jersey press and ready to go.
Very nice. So we could be done there very easily, but if you wanted to add some sleeve or shoulder placements, that's really to leverage your machine. We need to get those optional plattens working. That's going to open up your print capability versus everybody else with the flat press.
Sure.
You have a lever right here. You just unlock it. Okay, make sure it's completely out. You're going to lift this corner to corner. We'll lift this bottom attachment out. And then I think you have one in the box, but I brought along a little 6x10 inch. Drops down into place, locks in, and now we can thread one of those sleeve areas onto the machine.
He's going to get it over there.
You should be able to get it. You won't be able to get, no, not the whole thing, you just have to sort of, yes, there you go. It doesn't all need to go up on there, just get enough where I can hit the print zone.
You got a nice crease on there ready for a point of reference, right?
Yep. They always did, which is beautiful.
So I would probably relax it because you don't have that big of a number. Probably just leave it hang off the edge. The nice thing is it'll hold it on the platen. You know, and so now I can preheat. Now you always, when you change platen, pressure's going to change, so you have to just make sure that's correct.
Nice.
See, we're only at a
Have
3,
three.
so we're going to have to increase that slightly.
And that's by turning this.
Yeah.
Turn it clockwise. You can pull it down. You can pull it down while you do it. Just
Watch your hand.
Pull it part way down. That way you can reach it.
Now, when turning this to adjusted pressure, is there a certain amount?
Quarter turn's basically a digit, so you should be about good. 3. Alright, let's go ahead and lay out one of your sleeve numbers. Now on that fusion press, it's a little narrower throat underneath, so we can get the long sleeve attachment. And we can probably feed the neck of that jersey in and do both sleeves at once. Or
we have
we can do the cap attachment, the handle attachment, and load a couple at once if it fits, especially on t-shirts. And this flipping. Okay,
Yeah,
excellent.
that cap bill attachment is actually nice for a lot of things. You can do this, shoulders.
Now let me show you that cap bill attachment while we're here. Just to show you one more option on how you can do a pair at once, since you guys have it.
That looks so good, man.
I'll grab another one.
But you know,
Let me see the front of that, Dave. Cool, man. Cool. See the back? Sharp.
A lot quicker than embroidery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not kidding.
and no risk of running out of bobbin or something falling out of the hoop or anything getting seared down as it's supposed to be
Or your
before
arm
you
getting
press.
caught in the machine.
Yeah, there's that too. You have anybody take a needle yet? No, those are not fun.
Yeah.
Same one, you guys, we just have to screw in the system for yours. I had this one already set up. So now you can load a pair of sleeves on top of here.
So we have to screw it, we make it ready, right?
Yeah, and that will be ready to go.
So when you would do the other one?
Yeah, so we could do a
turn it
set.
around.
When I designed this plat, and I had all this in mind,
Oh yeah.
so we certainly found out, quickly find out all the uses.
Sure,
like that.
absolutely.
It was designed solely for the underside of the cap, but as you see that flexibility of the size, you can do a lot of things with it. Now you want to duplicate what you had, or it's about an inch up from the bottom, so I think you're pretty close.
The other one the same distance.
Yep, pretty close.
So charge for the extra application areas.
Yeah, of course.
Charge a baseline price front and back, and then add prices for the sleeves.
People will pay for
Hold
it.
on, just start to lift.
It's a value, you know.
It seemed like it did. I don't know if it was the actual jersey.
Might have been the
lifting.
jersey. If you ever feel like the number started to lift, it's not going to hurt it just to give it another application, especially since you have your cover sheet up here. Just give it another application if it ever starts to lift, because you don't feel like you got enough
But-
heat pressure.
Not still the 8 seconds, or should?
It doesn't hurt to give it 8.
Okay.
Anytime you compromise an application, you peel it too hot, peel it too early, didn't
Yeah.
get the pressure. Just
One thing too is you have 2 layers of barrier here. You've got this slip cover, and then you've got another one. So we've got 2 layers. So we probably should be adding some extra seconds to everything that we're doing, just because it takes a little bit of time to get that heat through. Now, it is hot on there all the time, so it's kind of preheating as it sits. But anytime you have extra layers in there, it can add a little bit of barrier to the heat.
Then you know what this is designed for, right?
Sure.
We can do those under the bill prints. I mean, you guys could be killing that in here.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So just a nice customization area.
And the
So that's how we do the bottom of a broom.
And the
We don't have-
vinyl will work.
And you can
Any
do,
of the vinyls.
you can do the tops too.
Yeah,
that way, too.
pop it inside out. I'm not
Turn
going to
the-
ruin your
turn the
nice cap.
inside out, and then
And if you had a print grade vinyl, like print and cut,
Mhm.
you could do a full graphic.
you could.
Wow.